Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start a new section of the Rūpa chapter. I think all of you, I hope all of you got a short handout. Now we are moving from Kammaja Rūpas to another type of Rūpa, which we normally render into English as Chitta, mind-born matter. So these are the Rūpas that are produced by our consciousness. According to the teachings, consciousness is a separate element, different from the matter or physicality, but it has a huge relationship with the physical body. So then consciousness is a different element apart from Rūpa, but it depends upon Rūpa. It depends upon Rūpa, and it has a huge relationship with the Rūpa. We call, but physicalist or materialist would find out that it is difficult to explain the interaction, how Rūpa, how a non-physical element like consciousness could interact with the extended reality, which is called Rūpa. Because extended means Rūpa takes space, Rūpa consumes space, and it is extended in the space. It has a certain volume. It's a 3D thing. So how could non-three-dimensional consciousness would affect such a thing and cause the movements in the Rūpa, and also how something impacts on the Rūpa could cause some feelings in the consciousness. So this is the problem of interaction, normally we call. Somehow the Theravadians are of the opinion, because it's felt in the common sense, that when we think, based according to our thinking, according to our intentions, which are on the mind, our body starts to move. So we take it as we observe that the consciousness is capable of interacting with the Rūpa, and if something touches our body, we feels it. So we take it as that though consciousness is a separate, non-material, non-extended element, it is capable of making changes or movements causing movements in the Rūpa, and also it is capable of capturing what is felt or what has struck on the Rūpa. That is something, a very fundamental belief or a theory that we take in as a fact in Theravada teachings. Now the next point is, this consciousness is capable of producing some material things. New material stuff arises due to Rūpa. Maybe it is due to the observations that we have, that when we think like the body is something that doesn't have an intention, it is a material thing. Then how could our intentions cause this body to move? The idea of Chittaja Rūpa may have come due to these few reasons, because we see a mental body interaction, and also how do we bridge this? How do we bridge this relationship? Because consciousness is something completely immaterial, while body is a material thing. So how could this interaction happen? Interaction means from the consciousness to the material thing. Materiality to the consciousness is mainly because the consciousness is depending on material. So especially on the Vattu Rūpas. And that due to that dependence, the consciousness is capable of taking the information, physical information. It's capable of taking the physical information due to its dependence on the Rūpa. And there is a certain effect that we will discuss later on, which is not taking information. Taking information means if something strikes at our eye, our consciousness, eye consciousness is capable of capturing this figure. This we call taking physical information. It is taking a physical information. Mental information or non-material information is not an issue. Consciousness taking such a thing. So taking a material information is due to its dependence on the Rūpa. Then consciousness making changes or impacting the Rūpa in physical movements, bodily postures, is something else. So this idea of Chitta Rūpa may have occurred due to this kind of observation. I am unable to say exactly this was the reason for this concept. Somehow we have something called Chittaja Rūpas in Theravada teachings. Chittaja Rūpa. If you analyze the word, so today our topic will be about Chittaja Rūpa and also about the Chitta. Mainly we are focusing on the Chitta, which produces Chittaja Rūpa. And what is the mechanism? This mechanism cannot be proven, it can only be explained as how the doctrine mentions, and we can give some logical, some practical explanations based on the facts that we have already established in the Theravada doctrine. So now the word formation, if you go to the word formation, Chitta Ja, Chitta plus Ja. Ja means arising. Arising due to Chitta. The Rūpas that arise, Jatha, the word is Jata. The Tha is, we don't get the Tha here. The root is changed into Ja. The root is Jan normally. Jan. Then Chitta Ja. The thing that is born. Born is a past participle. It's a noun. Chitta. Due to Chitta. The matter that is born due to Chitta. The matter which has Chitta has its origin or cause of origin are called Chittaja Rūpa. This is the basic explanation. Kammaja Rūpa, the matter that is born out of karma. Karma is the reason or cause of this Rūpa. If there was no karma, Kammaja Rūpas, those Rūpas, which we call Kammaja Rūpas, would not have occurred. Chittaja Rūpas, if there was no Chitta, these Rūpas would not have occurred. Though we say the name as Chitta, this includes both Chitta plus Cetasika. Producing Chittaja Rūpa is not just the act of only of the mind. It is an act of the mental cluster. If you remember, we have already mentioned this name many times, Chitta and Cetasikas, plural. A group of Chitta and Cetasikas are called a Chittupada. Chittupada. So this cluster is responsible for this production. It's not only Chitta. Though Chitta is prominent in a Chittupada, we normally call this matter Chittaja Rūpa. But it should not be understood that only Chitta is producing there. No. According to Patthana, it has clearly been explained that the entire cluster is responsible for this arising of this matter. Arising of this matter. There are, according to the, though actually it is Chitta, the Rūpa that are producing, we may use the word Chitta. But when we refer to the word Chitta, we should understand we are referring to the Chitta Chittupada, the entire cluster. We may say that the Lobha Chitta produces certain Rūpa, but that is not to say it's the Chitta that produces only the Chitta that produces Rūpa. It's the Lobha Chittupada together with the mentality, mental factors. This cluster is responsible of producing this entire, all the Rūpas. Now there are, according to tradition, 75 Rūpas, 75 Chittas or Chittupadas, which has the capacity to produce Chittaja Rūpa. They have the capacity to produce. What are these 75? We know that already we have 89 Chittas. We minus 10. 10 are the Pancha Vijnana, 10 Vijnana we call. 10 Vijnana are the sense vijnana which arise on eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Chakku vijnana, sota vijnana, ghana vijnana, jivha vijnana and kaya vijnana. These 5 consciousness. And we have 5 consciousnesses arising due to kusala and due to akusala as results of kusala and akusala. We normally term them as akusala vipaka pancha vijnana and kusala vipaka pancha vijnana. Pancha is 5. 2 groups of 5 vijnana is 10. We call it dipancha vijnana normally in Pali, dipancha vijnana. So I may be using the word 10 vijnana. So we have to exclude them. We'll talk why later on. And we also exclude 4 arupa vipaka. Arupa vipaka. There are altogether 12 arupavachara chittas. Arupavachara chittas are the matter that has been, the chittas, consciousness that has been attained or developed by distancing the mind from matter. A person who has gained the 5th absorption, the highest absorption in the material jhanas, finds out that the Rūpa has lots of defects. If you are born with in a life with Rūpa, we may face lots of difficulties and hardship in order to maintain this Rūpa. Therefore, some wishes for a life, some wish for a life that is devoid of Rūpa, a life where only Nama is found, without Rūpa. Since they have the desire to exist, they are not attaining Nibbana. They are attaining a life, a temporal life, though it is very long in terms of years. Still it has a temporal nature, temporary nature. So in order to attain this life, one needs to develop the 5th jhana again by distancing it from the Rūpa. So he or she sees the defects of the Rūpa, detach from the Rūpa and develop the same 5th jhana on a different non-material object. Then he or she attains the arupa jhanas. Attaining arupa jhanas, after arupa jhanas attained, we have 4 types of arupa jhanas. As a result of these jhanas, if someone dies without declining from them, he or she will be born in the arupa realms. So they are the results of arupavachara kusalas. These arupa vipaka, results of arupa vachara chittas, arise only in the arupa realms where there is no Rūpa. So these arupavachara chittas do not produce any mind-born matter ever. They never produce. There is no occasion in which they can produce mind-born matter. Other chittas, some chittas such as Lobamula chitta, while they appear in arupa realm, they don't produce any mind-born matter. But while they are in the other realms, Brahma realms or in the Kama realm, Rūpavachara and Rūpa and Kama realms, they do produce Chittaja Rūpa. Another thing to mention is now these 75 are the ones who have the capacity to produce Chittaja Rūpas. Even they produce Chittaja Rūpa while they are arising in a being. While they are arising in a being belonging to the Kama or Rūpa realms. For instance, some of these 75 may arise in Arupavachara beings. Arupavachara beings are the ones who are born in Arupa realms due to have developed Arupavachara kusala. So in those beings, though some belongs to these 75 may arise in those beings, though they possess the capacity to produce Chittaja Rūpa by nature, in those realms, due to the lacking of some factors, they are not producing Chittaja Rūpa. Next day we shall discuss what are these factors, necessary factors for the Chittaja Rūpa. A key thing to be kept in mind is there are 75 chittas, Chittupadas, which has the capacity to produce Chittaja Rūpa, but even they produce Chittaja Rūpa while they are arising in the Kama or Rūpa realms. Kama or Rūpa realms means in the beings who are born in Kama and Rūpavachara realms. In the beings who are born in Kamavachara and Rūpavachara realms. Then this also should, another realm should also be excluded, that is the Asanya Satta. In the Asanya  we do have matter but no consciousness. They do possess Kammaja Rupas, they do possess Uttuja Rupas, but they do not have Chittaja Rupas. Why? Because there is no consciousness in them. Asanya Satta is a life that is attained by developing detachment towards the Rupa, towards the Nama, beg your pardon, Nama. A person who has developed the fifth jhana or fourth jhana in fourfold method sees that the mind is the main reason for all sorts of suffering. And then he or she wishes to attain a life without mind. Then he or she develops detachment towards mind, sees the defects of the mind, and then is born in a life which has no chitta. If there is no chitta, there is nothing to discuss about Chittaja Rupa, because Chittaja Rupa by its definition are the rupas that are produced by chitta. So in the Asanya Satta realm, we don't have Chittaja Rupas. The Arupa realm, we don't have Chittaja Rupas. So therefore, altogether there are 26 realms. We minus 5 out of 35. That is 4 Arupa realms. Then it becomes 27. Then we minus 1 Asanya Satta. Altogether we have 26 realms in which Chittaja Rupas arise. The number of these realms is not to emphasize the physical location of the realm. This is to say the beings who are born in these realms. We normally may say the Chitta Chetasika, the 75 Chittas which arise in those realms. That is not to say their physical location. Why do I mean that? Why do I emphasize on this? Think about a person who has psychic powers in the Kama realm, Arahant. He goes to the Asanya Satta realm in order to observe them. So while he is physically in the Asanya Satta realm, still the Chittaja Rupas arise in him. Physically he is in the Asanya Satta realm, but he still belongs to the Kama realm as a being. His Nama Rupa arose as a Kama being. So still Chittaja Rupas do arise in him even while he is in the Asanya Satta realm. And according to the tradition, the Arupa realms are also being located in terms of physical location. So even a psychic monk or a Brahma or someone visits these Arupa realms for whatever reason, even though physically he is in the realm, still Chittaja Rupas arise in him. So therefore, this classification saying that Chittaja Rupas arise in only in 26 realms, that is not to say that these rupas are arising on those physical realms. This is to say it arises in the beings who are born in these 26 realms, regardless of the place they are existing, regardless of the place they are. I hope you got the idea. Now this is the first paragraph that I have explained here. When we are talking about Chittaja Rupa, we have to look into the word Chitta. What are these Chitta? Chittaja Rupa are the matter that are produced by Chitta. So then what are these Chitta? What are these Chittas which has the capacity? Not all 89 Chittas. Only 75 have this capacity. So who are excluded? 10 Vijnana and 4 Arupa Vachara Vipaka Chittas. So we shall explain. Today we are going to explain why 10 Vijnana is incapable of this. Later on we discuss why Arupa Vipakas are excluded. And also these 75 only while they arise in beings who belongs to the 29 realms. That's another point. 26 realms. So step by step we will go into explain why even the 75 out of 75, if I remove 42 or 43 arise in Arupa realm, can arise in the Arupa realm. So even those 40 plus Chittas which arise in Arupa realm, while they are arising there, they do not produce Chittaja Rupas because of a lacking of some other factor, supporting condition. Arupa Vipakas are always excluded because they never arise in other beings. They arise only in the beings who belong to the Arupa realm. Since Arupa realm is a life without Rupa, these Arupa Vipakas are also not capable of producing, do not produce Chittaja Rupas. Rather than saying not capable, it's an attribute, it's a good quality in them, because a life without Rupa is a higher attainment that we have to achieve through our practice. So rather than saying that it lacks the capacity, we can say they do not produce Chittaja Rupas due to the effects of the past practice. Anyway, so this is the explanation about the Chitta, the number. Then we go into the next point 153. 153. We know that chittas and rupas, mentalities. I rather call it nama and Rūpa. They normally have three phases. Three phases. According to the Mulatika, the Nama have two phases only. The Nama have two phases. So either it arises, persists and pass away, or arise and pass away. Right? Whatever the way we decide. Then Rūpa arises, persists for a longer period and passes away. We call the Upada Titi Bhanga, arising, persisting and vanishing. Arising phase, persisting and vanishing. These are the three. Arising, persisting, vanishing. Then the Rūpa also we have arising, persisting is titi, persisting and vanishing. These are three phases. These phases are not ultimate realities. They are just stages of this of a reality. Now, if we follow the Mulatika explanation, arising and vanishing. These are the two. Now, later on we shall study in the next sections of this chapter, Rūpa. There are two types of Rūpa that are produced by Rūpa. So karma, we have already discussed Kamaja Rūpas, the Rūpas that are produced by karma that was done in a past life. Not a karma that is done in this present life is not capable of producing Kamaja Rūpas in this very life. That was also fundamental, if you remember. Only the karmas done in the past lives has the capacity to produce Rūpa. Maybe in the immediate past or far away past, doesn't matter. Then we have Chittaja Rūpas, matter produced by the consciousness and the mental factors. Then later on we may study about two types of Rūpas. We call Utuja Rūpas, Utuja Rūpas produced by Tejo, and Aharaja produced by Oja. Oja is Ahara. Oja and Tejo are Rūpa. So a Rūpa produces new Rūpa, another Rūpa, at its persisting stage. When it enters the persisting phase, it produces Rūpa. But the Chitta produces during its arising phase. We call Chittaja Rūpas, produced by Nama. They produce during the arising phase, not the persisting. But Rūpa produces during the persisting phase. Why is that? The reason is, in general, Nama is stronger. This strength is not about comparing Nama and Rūpa, no. If you take the entire existence of the Rūpa, Nama, this has some, this notion has some validity because we have to take the Nama as a one unit. It's not comparing with the Rūpa. Now, if you take the Nama as a one unit, during which moment this Nama is more stronger? During which moment this Nama is stronger? Its strength is evaluated as a separate unit. If we try to compare with Rūpa, it's a different case. It's a different case. Now, the Nama, the cluster of Nama itself has its own existence. And during which stage? Is it during the arising or persisting or vanishing stages? It is more powerful. Powerful means stronger. According to the tradition, Nama is powerful or stronger during its arising stage, not during the persisting or vanishing stage. Vanishing is nothing to say because we all know vanishing stage is the weakest stage. There's no argument about that because you enter the vanishing after decaying. The question is, Is the consciousness is stronger during the persisting or the arising stages? According to this model, persisting stage has to be explained differently. That is a different case. It has to be explained differently, which I think I gave explanation on this once, but later on in a different chapter, I'll be analyzing it very thoroughly. Now, arising stage. It is Chitta is stronger during the arising, but the Rūpa is stronger during the persisting stage. Why is that? Strength of a reality is mainly decided by the support it gets. The reality itself has a certain strength. There is no argument since it is an intrinsic nature. But its strength fluctuates based on what sort of support it gets from other causes. Not by itself. Itself has a certain strength by nature, strength to exist since it's in intrinsic nature. There's nothing to discuss about it. But when it is being supported by others, based on the support, we can evaluate its strength. Normally, the nama gets all the support, the full support of a nama is obtained during the arising stage. Full support. A nama obtains is full support. What are the support? The previous consciousness, the support given by the previous consciousness. Previous mentalities. Support given by them. Because we know Chitta arises due to the speed of the consciousness. The previous consciousness passes away. It has a certain capacity to produce the other consciousness. That capacity does not cease together with the consciousness. That capacity, especially it remains when someone attains the Nirodha Samapatti during a period which he or she remains unconscious, without consciousness. Unconscious doesn't mean that he is not in the sense of a coma, but the consciousness doesn't arise at all. Or during while someone is in the Arupa realm. The last consciousness which passed away has a capacity to produce the other consciousness. Even there is a time gap. That capacity does not cease. So, the next consciousness gets the support of the previous consciousness. In terms of Pali words, we call Anantara Pachaya. Anantara, Samanantara, Asevana. To various consciousness. They get the support of the previous, and that support is obtained at the arising moment. Then the capacity vanishes, having aroused the next consciousness. But in terms of the Rūpa get the support, some support at the moment of arising, but the most important supports for its strength is given to it during the persisting moment. What are the supports it gets? It gets the support of Tejo of other Kalapas, and the remaining Rūpas in a Kalapa also gets the support of the Tejo associated in Tejo. Then it gets the support of Oja. We shall explain them later, how the support is given. Then mentalities. That is Nama. There is a Pachya called Pachajata Pachya. Nama is supporting the Rūpa, and that support is also gained at the persisting stage. Rūpa gets its support. Now, if you compare the Rūpa as a separate unit, during its existence, it's much stronger during the persisting phase rather than the arising or vanishing phases. Therefore, Rūpa is stronger during the beginning of the persisting. Then it starts to decline. Because due to the phenomenon of decaying, it starts to decline and passes away eventually. Nama is stronger during the arising period. Therefore, now a reality shows its capacity or shows its glory or ability mostly during its strongest period. What is the outcome of a Rūpa? What does it do? It supports the life, that is no doubt, this is a different case, but it leaves some offspring before it passes away. When does it do that? When does it do that? That is during the persisting stage. Therefore, Rūpa produces Tejo and Oja, produces Utuja and Aharaja Rūpa during the persisting phase, not during the arising phase. If you compare with Nama and Rūpa, it seems like the arising phase of a Rūpa is stronger than the Nama. It's stronger than the Nama. Seems like. Because Nama always depends on Rūpa, since it's a weak reality. Rūpa doesn't need the support of Nama, it can exist without the Nama, obviously. But Nama cannot do that unless in a special case in Arupa realm, which is a capacity, due to the capacity obtained through vigorous meditation practice and a very strong concentration and of suppression of defilements. So, but Rūpa still, even after in a corpse, can still remain for some period without the consciousness. So therefore, it seems like Rūpa is much stronger than Nama, but Nama can be developed into a very stronger, powerful level. Even it can impact the outside Rūpa while doing psychic, but still it has a limitation. So in general, it's saying Rūpa seems to be much powerful than Nama. So a rising phase of a Rūpa is during a rising phase, it seems that Rūpa is more capable than the Nama. But if you take the Rūpa as a one separate unit within this reality, within its entire lifespan, persisting is the strongest period. So Rūpa brings out his offspring. Brings out means produces offspring during the persisting phase rather than the arising phase. But in terms of the Nama, which is much stronger in the arising period, produces his offspring. Offspring is the Chittaja Rūpa during the arising period. Therefore, Chittaja Rūpas arise together with the Nama, we normally say. Together with the Nama. So that is the next fundamental, which I have explained in 2.153. These mentalities produce Chittaja Rūpas at their arising moment. The reason is Chitta Chetasikas are stronger at the moment of arising due to having gained all the necessity conditions such as Anantara Pacchaya Sati and Asevana Pacchaya Sati. However, Rūpas are strong at its persisting moment since they get support of Tejo, Oja and mentalities, Nama, after they have entered the persisting phase. After they enter the persisting phase, they get the support, then they are stronger, they are able to produce the offspring. So that is also something that we should know. We so far discussed Chitta and Chetasikas produce the Chittaja Rūpa, and there are 75 Chittas which are capable of doing that, and they also produce these matter at the arising moment. Then Chittaja Rūpas are not produced not only by the Chitta but their entire Chittupada. That's another thing. By the entire Chittupada. We already discussed. It is stated in the Patthana that mentalities that become Hetu Pacchaya, Adhipati Pacchaya, Kamma Pacchaya, Ahara Pacchaya, Indriya Pacchaya, Jhana and Magga Pacchayas also support the arising of mind-born matter. That is the fundamental. In Patthana it is mentioned, it is not the Chitta only the Chitta, but other mentalities are also capable of producing Chittaja Rūpas. Therefore, we form the fundamental is the entire Chittupada which is producing Chittaja Rūpa, not only the Chitta. We already discussed about it. Now we come into another very important point. So what is this? What is this mechanism? How a cluster of mentalities producing Chittas, Chittaja Rūpas. Chitta and Chetasikas produce Chittaja Rūpas. Chitta plus Chetasika, we call Chittupada. better to show with the equal sign. They produce Chittaja Rūpa. They produce Chittaja Rūpa. How this is done? In order to explain this, we need to think about this in a practical way. Now, this is also based on the Theravada fundamentals. Chittupadas focus at Aramana. Aramana is the object. Aramana is the object. Chitta Chetikas focuses at an object. Now, this Chitta Chetasika, Chittupada, while focusing at an object or doing a certain function, what are the functions they do? They cognize very well. They do bodily, verbal, and mental activities. Then they have 14 types of functions. A lot is done by Chitta Chetasikas. Now, while performing these functions and while cognizing an object, this Chittupada produces Chittaja Rūpa. It is mentioned in the Doctrine. Out of this cluster, there are few things that are vital in this production. Obviously, number one is Chitta. There is no doubt about it. That's why they are called Chittaja Rūpas. Otherwise, we would have said Chetasika Rūpa or something like that. Chetasika Ja Rūpa, something like that. No, Chitta is the foremost in this production. No doubt about that. But Chitta is not capable of doing that because we know some Chittas are not capable of producing Chittaja Rūpas. The second things are the jhana factors. Jhananga we call. Jhananga. Jhana factors. Then we have mentality, especially Chetana. There can be others also. Chetana is also foremost. We'll just focus on these three types of mentalities. It has been mentioned that if a Chitta doesn't have Jhananga, if Chitta doesn't have Jhanangas, that Chitta is not capable of producing Chittaja Rūpas. That is a fundamental. If any mental cluster doesn't have Jhananga, it is not capable of producing Chittaja Rūpas, mind-born matter. It's not capable of producing mind-born matter. Then we have to find out a relationship between Jhananga and Chittaja Rūpas. Jhanangas. What are Jhanangas? Jhanangas are the factors of Jhana. We have 5 Jhanangas. Vitakka, initial application. Vichara. Vichara is sustained application. I explained them very briefly in initial lectures. Vichara. Piti, the zest or the we call the rapture. Then Vedana. Here I am not talking about only Sukha and Upekka, but Vedana. This also includes Domanassa. Then Ekagata. These are the 5 jhana factors. Why are they called jhana factors? Because they cognizes the object. They have an extra capacity in cognition, extra capacity in knowing or dealing with an object. Vitakka ascends to the object. In all the in the entire sphere of cognition, Chitta is foremost because it delimits the object and focuses at it. That is the function of Chitta. Chitta is foremost. But if we analyze this mental activity of knowing an object, Vitakka ascends to it. What is this ascending? It has to be explained based on occasions where Vitakka is not found. I'm diverting away from the topic now, but still to explain what Vitakka is briefly. Vitakka is not found in consciousness which takes an object that has arrived at its location. Now, I consciousness arises on, depending on I, taking an object that has arrived at its location. It means object that has already struck with the I sensitivity. So, physically it has arrived. Now, think about the smell, nose consciousness. The smell has struck on this nose sensitivity. It is taking the object that is physically there. The doctrine says vitakka is not necessary on such occasions, since the object has physically arrived at the place of the consciousness. On other occasions, when the mind is working, or a consciousness that is arising in the heart base, as the Theravadians claim, there is no physical relation. The object has not arrived at a physical sensitivity. It has not arrived there. Another thing to explain, it's not just the physical location. The object has to have struck on the sensitivity. Has to have struck on the sensitivity. Because there is a very rare occasion where the consciousness is capable of knowing its own base. Knowing its own base. The heart base. Very rare occasions. According to some teachers, it can happen most of the times. But according to some explanation, at the moment of death, there is an occasion where it can happen. But still, vitakka is necessary. So, the thing is, though the Rūpa depends on this heart base, it's not as depending on a pasada. Pasada means a sensitivity. The sensitivity is sort of a door. Heart base is not a door actually, it's a base. Door means which takes in physical object, which opens the door for the consciousness to collect physical information. There's something very philosophical I am talking. Some may not get this idea if someone doesn't have a very profound understanding on Theravada Abhidhamma. That is not to look down upon others, but this needs some fundamental knowledge. Anyway, what I want to say is, I'll just leave apart this special case. Now, vitakka, when it is taking an object that has arrived at the sensitivity on which it is depending, when the consciousness is taking an object which has arrived at the sensitivity on which it depends, it doesn't need the support of a vitakka. What does this implies, or what does this indicates? If the object has not physically arrived at its location, the consciousness needs some extra effort, mental effort. Effort means power, I would call. I'm just using the word that can be referred to other mentalities. That's why I have to be very careful on it. There is some sort of an effort or a power in the consciousness in order to know the object. That is an extra mental effort, I would call. How do we demonstrate this? How do we understand it more practically? Think like you are observing this picture. You are observing the photo of mine, of the place here, is on your screen. In order to see that, you don't need much effort. Just open your eyes and eye consciousness is able to capture this. Now think like this, just a simile I am giving. Think if you close your eyes and try to imagine this same picture. If you close your eyes and try to imagine this Bhante is giving a lecture and this entire thing, it needs some mental effort to do that. So this type of extra mental effort in ascending an object that has not arrived at the location of the consciousness, I know it's a very long sentence, is the vitakka. So vitakka is necessary for the consciousness to jump onto an object which has not arrived at its location. Location means at its sensitivity, which is the gateway for the physical information. Anyway, so vitakka is necessary it has an extra cognitive capacity ascend into the object, which are, I'm not going into detail about these mental factors, then it will be a completely different lecture because we are going to focus on them later on in the Nama chapters. Vichara rubs the object. Vitakka ascends to the object, the entire mentality ascends to the object, and vichara is rubbing, is like, it's investigating. We normally render this into English as sustained application, while vitakka is translated as initial application. Zest, rapture, becoming happy or delight on the object, regarding the object. It's an excited nature. It's also taking the object quite strongly. Vichara observes the object. Vedana feels the taste of the object. It goes into the object. Feeling the taste, flavor. Then ekaggata stays on one aspect the object can be taken. So all these 5 are mainly related to the object, taking the object, regarding cognition. Yes, sanya also plays a huge role in such occasions. Ditti, and on the akusala side, yes, we can understand. But if you take the ethically variable ones, anya samana, adimokha, deciding on the object. But think about virya. Virya is sustaining, is the energy of the mind which sustains it in a certain work that we have initiated. It's nothing much to do with the object. But these 5, yeah, there are some other mentalities that deal with the object, but it seems like these 5 has some sort of a direct relationship with the object. So we say that they have an extra capacity in knowing the object. So that's why even in non-Buddhist sects, as it has been recorded in the Buddhist sects, I would say, even in the non-Buddhist Buddhist sects, they advocated these 5 jhana factors as the reasons of higher attainment. In order to have a clear picture, clear observation about object and develop a concentration, we need vitakka, vichara, piti, vedana and ekaggata. So they gives us a better focus. Jhanangas. So if we draw, now this is consciousness. We come back to the chitta rūpa topic. Consciousness delimits the object and focuses on it. These 5, vitakka ascends to the object. Vichara rubs the object. Piti, being delighted on the object. Vedana, taste the object. It taste the flavor of the object. Ekaggata, it lands the mind on one aspect the object can be taken. So due to these 5 mental factors, consciousness is dealing, the entire mental cluster is dealing with the object very closely. It has a good observation. It focuses, the well focus has come. It's like the entire cluster is, in terms of cognition, has been brought into one focus. We have a higher, better focus when these factors are working together. In samatha meditation, what we do is mainly develop these 5 factors, so we can have a better focus on the object. Consciousness, they empower the consciousness, the cognition ability of the consciousness. Think about a laser, a ray of lasers. If we focus them, now we can apply a beam of laser on one place, but then we can densify its density, increase its density and focus the same amount of rays at a smaller space. So what happens is, it gets stronger capacity, a stronger power. Even we can cut certain things with this laser beam. It generates more heat. It's a physical thing, it's just a metaphor. So likewise, when the ekagga, these 5 jhana factors are there, consciousness focuses on the object, it becomes more capable, stronger in its capacity. If someone develops these factors and even overcome them, overcoming means it's not to get rid of their capacity, the consciousness is going beyond them. Going beyond them means they don't lose the concentration, it increases. So the concentration, the focus increases in jhanas. So then it becomes capable of doing certain things like impacting the physical world. Even levitation is possible. It changes the physicality. Even certain miracles are possible. So the consciousness gets a higher capacity when its focus increases. When its focus increases. Therefore, when these jhana factors are found, it is focusing at the object. As a result, let me draw it with a different color. As a result, chittaja rupas arise. Chittaja rupas arise. Why is that? The consciousness is more powerful. This can be explained more better while we are trying to make a physical movement. I just want to take this paper on my podium. So I have to bring my hand and grab it. In order to do that, my mind focuses on the hand, though it's happened very rapidly. Then only I'm capable of lifting this and bringing it here. In order to do that, according to the tradition, the body itself cannot do that. It has to be moved by the mind. The mind cannot affect the physical body. We call the problem of interaction, mind-body problem. That's why most of the philosophers are physicalist, because of this mind-body interaction problem. To them, this seems to be a huge issue. How a non-material mind could affect the body. For us, it is something natural. We don't go into explanations because we feel that it is there since we can focus on the mind having separated from the body. Not physically, intellectually. So what is happening? The mind intends to move the body, but the mind doesn't have that capacity. Body can only be moved by a physical thing. There's no doubt about that. Exceptional cases are there in the psychic world, but still we need explanations for that. But normally body cannot be moved by a non-physical thing. That is obvious to us mostly. Now it has to be moved by a physical thing. So this physical thing is a Rūpa, and that Rūpa is quite special. We call it chittaja rupas. This fills the gap between the mind and the body. This fills the gap between the mind and the body. When chittaja rupas arises, it can cause a pressure, physical pressure, and make the body to move. This is how the Theravadians fill this gap. How the body is moved based on the mind. But still the problem comes, how a non-material mind could produce a material thing. That's a different thing. How could a non-material thing produce a material thing? This is the question that has been haunting the entire Western philosophy since the Princess of Bohemia brought this up to Descartes, René Descartes, and say how could your non-material, immaterial consciousness could move a material extended body. He tried to explain it, but not satisfactory. So this can be, now mind is producing Rūpa, which is capable of making a physical impact on the body. So our hand moves. And we say this Rūpa is abandoned with Vayu. Vayu is the physical strength. So we are getting a strength out of mind, produced by mind. Since mind is a non-physical element, so we are saying that we are getting a certain strength out of nothing, which is produced by, in terms of physicality, it is happening out of nothing. Which is a huge problem in terms when you start to think logically, rationally. Anyway, we are not going to discuss about these things. Now that is another thing. Now just to open a gate for this, now think this Rūpa is a extended thing. Rūpa Kalapas are arising. Even Kalapas are natures. They are not material things, they are natures. When they come together, an extended body is created. So mind is also natures. So seems like there is a possible connection is there, because when you dissect the Rūpa Kalapa, it is also found as non-physical. Non-physical means it is physical, non-material. They are not things, they are not substances. Non-substantial physical qualities we call, non-substantial physical qualities. Mind is non-substantial mental qualities, but both are qualities. Mind has different capacity, cognition and all. Rūpa has different capacity. It doesn't have an intentional sort of nature. So, can't we bring a relationship between these two? That's why Bertrand Russell, having discussed about it, he said no, it should be that the mind is existing. If so, if the mind is existing and Rūpa is moving based on mind, it is that both of them are made out of a mother's element which has similar characteristics. So out of that mind is produced and out of that the body is produced. Since they have similar characteristics, they are capable of interaction. That was his argument. Theravadians also see a gate, since both of them are just mere attributes, not physical stuff, but this is a physical attribute while this is a mental attribute. Even though thousands of these qualities come together, it doesn't create a physical thing, but it does. So there is a fundamental contrasting nature between them. But still, they are non-material, not physical, non-substantial nature, material in the sense of things. They are not, both are not things. So it seems like there is a possibility of interaction. Seems like. But even the Theravadians would say, no, mind cannot directly interact with the body. So there should be some sort of a in-between material thing which is capable of pushing the body and which is produced by the mind. This seems like this I'm just assuming what they must have thought. Now, it's still a problem. How could mind produce a physical thing? A non-material thing, non-physical mind could produce a physical thing. Anyway, but we can see now, still the question is there. Now just without focusing on that, we can see that the mind, when it is together with jhana factors, has a better focus on the object, which implies that mind is more stronger, powerful, sharper. It's not about the jhanas. We are not talking about the jhanas, because jhana factors are found also in day-to-day life minds. Even someone is having dosa, jhana factors are there. Even doubt, there is jhana factors. Even while I am moving my hand, jhana factors are found. These are not the exalted, sublime jhana factors that we discuss in the samatha meditation. No. We are talking about jhana factors that are necessary in order to perform whatever physical, verbal, mental activity. These vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, piti, vedana and ekaggata are found in other consciousnesses as well. Since when the consciousness is with these mental factors, which we call jhana factors, which are also found in day-to-day life, it has a better focus. It has a strength. It's much stronger than other consciousness. As an outcome, and especially if it has an intention to move the body, it's just a special occasion, right? It is capable of producing chittaja rupas. Chittaja rupas are produced. Even it doesn't have intention to do any physical activity while we are sleeping, even chittaja rupas arises, because those consciousness have jhana factors. Jhana factors are necessary to produce chittaja rupas because they increase the focus. And so the entire cluster is stronger. That is the outcome. So only when jhana factors are found, consciousness is capable of producing chittaja rupa. Then what happens to 10 vijnana, which we call in the first slide? 10 vijnanas do not produce Chittaja Rūpa. Why is that? They do not have Jnanangas. They do not have Jnanangas. One who has studies Abhidhamma would argue, no, even 10 Vijnanas have Ekaggata. They have Vedana. Yes, but in order to, for the last 4 factors to be considered as jhana factors, it should associate vitakka. Without vitakka, even these mentalities are found in some consciousness. They are not considered as jhana factors. This is for the kamavachara chittas only. In the Rūpāchara realm, second jhana, we don't have vitakka, but we have the remaining jhana factors. There is a different case. In the kamavachara sphere means the chittas, in the kamavachara, among the kamavachara chittas, in order for these remaining to be a jhana factor, they should associate vitakka. Since vitakka is not found in 10 vijnana, ekaggata and vedana of these consciousness are not becoming jhana factors. Hence, they do not produce chittaja rūpa. Why is that? Dipancha vijnana, 10 vijnana doesn't possess jhana factors. Doesn't possess jhana factors. Then another way to explain this is, if you remember, I also put a mental factor called chetana. Chetana is the force, the driving force to do a certain activity. The force of the consciousness. When that force is there, what happens? Chetana also, when jhana factors do increase the focus. Now, chitta delimits the object and takes it, and the chetasikas perform their functions. Since every chitta arises to do a certain activity, function, all the chetasikas are, in order to explain this, we have to explain what chetana is. All the chetasikas are collectively made to involve in this function. We call this collective function. Collective function. Mentalities have 2 types of function: individual functions and collective function. What are the collective functions? Examples: bodily movement, verbal, speaking, meditation. These are all collective functions done by mentalities, not by a single mentality. What are the individual functions? The passa contacts the object, Vedana feels the object. They have their own specific functioning. And all together they all perform a collective function. Chetana is the effort in order to perform this collective function. Effort. Since Chetana is trying to perform this collective function, the other mentalities are also, because due to its extra power, extra effort, it is capable of gathering all of them and making them involved in performing this collective function. So Chetana also make a focus. We call ayuhana in Pali for this function. Pindikarana, they all gather, all the mentalities gather with a collective idea. Collective idea means not idea in the sense of thinking, for a collective function. So Chetana collects them in order to perform this. While Passa is contacting the object, Vedana is feeling the object, Sanya is recognizing the object. Due to the collective nature of Chetana, in order to perform the action, perform the collective function, every mentality, while doing the individual function, contributes this collective function. So, while the Chetana, every mentality is performing its own function, they contribute to the collective function, which are like moving the body and so forth. So, Chetana itself has this capacity to gather mentalities towards one goal. Jnanangas also had that capacity in terms of focus. It is said that when Chetana is there, for example, if I have an intention to move my body, Chittaja Rūpas do arise and change the posture, affects the body. Chetana is the reason. Now these Chittaja Rūpas become capable of moving the body. Some Chittaja Rūpas are not capable of moving the body. Some are capable. So they are much stronger, powerful Chittaja Rūpas. Why is that? They have been affected by the Chetana of the mind. Chetana to lift the body, speak out. So Chetana is directly affecting the nature of this Rūpa. Strong Chetana, we get strong Chitta Rūpas. But still, the focus made by the Chetana and the production of Chitta Rūpas done by them. Or we may say Chitta is producing Chitta Rūpas. In another way, Chitta is producing Chitta Rūpas due to the support given by Chetana. Either we say Chetana directly support Chitta Rūpas, or Chitta itself producing Chitta Rūpas supported by Chetana. Because Chetana also have this capacity of making everyone to focus or everyone to do one particular object, gathering them. But Chetana alone cannot empower Chitta to that level. It needs the support of Jnanangas. It needs the support of Jnanangas. Only when Jnanangas are also there, Chetana is capable of strengthening the mind to produce Chitta Rūpa. In other words, only when Jnanangas are there, Chetana are capable of producing Chitta Rūpa. The entire mentalities are capable of producing Chitta Rūpas. Chetana do play a huge role in it because it gathers all the mentalities towards the one particular goal. The gathering is there. When the mentalities are gathered towards a specific goal or a purpose, the strength increases. We know that in order, for example, if we want to perform a certain function, like when all of us are working towards that aim, the force capacity is higher than someone individually trying to do that. So therefore, when the gathering is there, when the focus is there, the Chitta becomes stronger. So Chetana is another mental factor which empowers the mentalities in this regard. But even that needs Jnanangas support. What does it mean? Jnanangas are fundamentally are the fundamental reasons for the strength of the consciousness with regard to its capacity to produce Chitta Rūpas in performing certain functions of the mind. Certain obvious functions of the mind. So therefore, we normally say Chitta is producing Chitta Rūpas, mentality, Chitta Chetasikas are producing Chitta Rūpas, but only when the support of Jnanangas are found. So when talking about Chitta Rūpas, we cannot forget Jnanangas, we cannot forget the contribution made by Jnanangas. So that would be my lecture today. This is going to be an interesting topic which will last for a few weeks. Chitta Rūpas. Truly, it may last for months since we are doing one lecture per week. So today we discussed the Chitta Rūpas, the definition, the matter that is produced by Chitta is not only the Chitta that is producing Rūpa, is the Chitta Chesikas collectively, Chittupada, the cluster is producing Chitta Rūpas, not only the Chitta. And then mentalities produce Chitta Rūpas at the moment of their arising. Since they are powerful during the arising moment, then they are persisting and vanishing periods. Then, out of the mentalities which produce Chitta Rūpa, Chitta is the one that produces, actually is the one that is most responsible. It is the focus of the object, and without Chitta, there's nothing is possible, no mental thing is possible, activity is possible. Then Chetana and also the mentality such as Chetana also supports Chitta in this regard, but only when Jnanangas are there, this phenomenon is possible. So Jnanangas plays the biggest role in producing Chitta Rūpa. So that was the lecture today. And Chitta Rūpa are the matter that is produced by our mind. Whether we intend or not, Chitta Rūpas are always producing in our body. And that helps us to sustain our postures, to make physical movements, which we will discuss in the due course. We may also focus on crying, certain activities such as crying, laughing, and activities such as dancing and so forth, how they are done with wholesome and unwholesome minds. Yeah. And this shows that Chitta Rūpas are are also very important in regard to getting rid of the wrong view of the doer, the karaka ditti, because the mind, we think that the mind, due to our self who is inside our body, is making all the physical and verbal and whatever movements. But actually mind itself is not capable of doing it. It needs the support of chittaja rupas in order to do these activities. That is the bridge between the physical activity and the mind. The chittaja rupas act according to the mind. How is that? Through what element? We call the intimation, viññati. So it's a very interesting topic, this chittaja rupas. So we shall go deeper and deeper into the topics. And also I shall be discussing how chittaja rupas are working in a person who is been possessed by demons, while someone is intoxicated, and while someone is in a sleep, a dream, how chittaja rupas are functioning. Even such topics will be touched during these lectures. So it's a very interesting topic. We shall embark on this journey to find out how mind is related to the Rūpa. So this also shows that there is no self governing the body. Even the mind needs the support of some intermediate elements in order to do all these activities, physical activities. So I conclude the lecture, so giving the opportunity to for the Q&A session.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
My question is, when jhana factors, so jhana anga, within jhana angas, we have initial application, sustained application, sustain, then vedana,
feeling.
In this context, it should be taken as happiness only, sukha vedana, and is it spiritual happiness only?
No, that is with regard to the exalted jhana, like rupavachara chittas we are talking. It can be either happiness, we call joy, mental joy, or neutral feeling. Neutral feeling or joy is found in exalted, like sublime jhana consciousness. When we say jhanangas, we are not confined only to the spiritual attainments. Even while someone is killing an animal, think like someone is shooting at something, you have to have a certain focus. If someone is blaming someone, there should be some focus in the mind. So even the domanassa vedana is counted here. Domanassa vedana is counted. Sukha dukkha no, because they are only bodily, physical, they appear in the kaya viññānas only. So while we are doing some activity, physical, mental or verbal, or performing the 14 functions of the consciousness, these jhana factors are relevant in many of the cases except the 5 viññānas, 10 viññānas. So it's not only sukha or upekha which I have counted here, even domanassa is counted here. So just keep in mind, jhana factors are found in kamavachara chittas as well, akusala chittas as well. The jhana factors that we study in the rupavachara level are the spiritual attainments. They are quite different. They are in terms of their basic fundamental nature, they are the same. They have the extra capacity of focusing at an object, knowing an object, dealing with an object. And these factors with this capacity, of this fundamental capacity, are found even in the kamavachara realm, even in akusala chittas. That's what I meant here.
Thank you, clear. My other question is why chittaja rupas produced by supramundane chittas, lokottara chittas taken as sorrow. When it's come to normal truth, it is when we learn Dhamma, we taken as a
suffering, not sorrow. Yeah, sorrow is soka, suffering. Yeah, noble truth of suffering. Your question is, even supramundane consciousnesses produce mind-born matter, and they are considered as, they are classified under the noble truth of suffering. Why is that? Yeah, because it's the fundamental quality of Rūpa. Any Rūpa is categorized under suffering, the noble truth of suffering, because it can be an object of defilement and it can be a cause of suffering in the long term. The direct cause of suffering is Tanha, because it is the one who desires for this suffering. Though the outcome is a suffering, it desires for that. But all the other things that are in the under the category of noble truth of suffering can be linearly causing for the suffering to happen, or what somehow related to the suffering. So regarding Chittaja Rūpas arising due to supramundane consciousness also has this basic capacity. I shall be explaining them in the Chittaja, the lessons. In lessons we may talk about what are the consciousness, what sort of Rūpas are produced by what sort of consciousness. And we may in the next, most probably in the next chapter, we may talk about, in the next lesson most probably, we may talk about this issue that some consciousness do not produce Chittaja Rūpas and some do produce Rūpas and so forth. And I mentioned that Magga Chitta does not produce Kamaja Rūpas because it is against the fundamental purpose of the Magga. Magga is to eradicate the suffering, so it is not becoming a cause for another rebirth or for another life. But in terms of Chittaja Rūpa, since the Magga Chitta is very powerful, very strong in this focusing ability, Magga and Pala Chittas, automatically they produces Chittaja Rūpa. Chittaja Rūpas are just the outcome of this strong focus. We cannot prevent that. We cannot prevent that. Since it's a Rūpa, since it has the fundamental capacity of being an object of defilements and so forth, many other reasons, it is classified under the Chittaja Rūpas. So it is not to say that something that comes out of Maggapala should be excluded from the noble truth of suffering. No. In this classification of noble truth of suffering, we need to examine the intrinsic nature of the reality itself, not its cause. Not its cause. For example, Gotra Bhuchitta, which has the Nibbana as its object, but still is classified under the noble truth of suffering, regardless of its object. So since it can be an object of defilements, since it has not gone beyond the range of defilements. Therefore, it is still the Rūpa produced by supramundane consciousness still falls under the category of Rūpa, category of suffering, because of its fundamental nature.
Thank you,
Theravada Sarnai. Yeah, there's a question in the chat box. Pandahami Bante, what exactly happens in the Arupa Loka, like in the what is it? Rūpa Loka, we do many things. In that sense, what Arupa Loka do? Physically nothing. They do nothing. And they doesn't even move because there's no physicality in terms of their life. It's a physical location. It's a physical location. The doctrine is located in these distances above the world. So the consciousness is in those locations. But since it doesn't have a Rūpa, they are not capable of seeing objects, hearing objects, smelling, tasting, feeling the touch, or even moving. So this seems like very boring when you look into this in terms of the pleasures in the Kama realm. That is just because we think sees the world differently. When someone has reached that higher spiritual level, life without the Rūpa is the higher bliss, and they are fully devoid of defilements. Their minds are very pure. So the Arupa life itself is a very high bliss. They do not do any activity. They do not do any activity as we do. They do think. The life itself is a bliss. A simile to take on this regard is, think the Kama life of a Kamavachara being is similar to plain rice. Plain rice. One of the Mahatheras has given this explanation. plain rice. You cannot just eat plain rice. You need some curry. You need to add certain things, mix and eat. It's very rare. Sometimes in some countries, yes, you can eat plain rice when if you are very hungry, obviously. That would feel tasty. But not in all the cases. We need some curry. Maybe some dal or chili or whatever, vegetables, meat, fish, whatever. We need, according to the preference, we need to mix it and eat. But think about a cake. It is made in a way that you don't need anything. You don't mix cake with something. Yeah, there may be some cake that we need to mix with some, but normally if it is a gateau cake or some very delicious cake, cake itself is delicious. You don't need to add anything in order to make it more tastier. So life of Kamavachara beings are made, fundamentally structured in a way that they need all these sense organs and sense objects in order to make it more pleasurable or make it happier. But in the Arupa realm, the fundamental nature of the life is, since it has suppressed all the defilements, it is not a punishment that they are getting. They are trying to achieve that by their own will. Seeing how difficult the life is with a Rūpa, they wish for such a life. It's not that they are being punished by karma, that they are losing something. But think about in the karma realm, someone loses the eye. That is due to the effect of his past karma mostly. So it's something that he loses. Since he has the desire to see objects, someone by birth may not have a strong desire as someone who lost his eyesight during the course of the life. Obviously, it's very suffering if you have seen the objects and later on if you lose your eyesight rather than being blind by birth. But still, fundamentally, it's a state of suffering that we see as someone who cannot see anything while we are seeing the objects. Because the nature of the fundamental structure of the karma realm beings is that they need these organs in order to live a happy life. Because without them, the bhavanga consciousness of the karma beings is not in a state. It's not ready for that, for example. Because why we are born in the karma realm? Because we haven't subdued our defilements in the past life. That was the reason. If you have subdued our defilements, we will be born in the Rūpa realm as a Brahma. So karma beings by nature are prone to defilements. They are born with such a nature. If someone lacks any of the organs that are required to satisfy their desires, we consider as a defect in the karma realm. If someone doesn't have any sensitivity in the nose, it says that no karma being loses jivha and kaya. I think we discussed about this in the Kammajarupa lectures. All the karma beings do have tongue sensitivity and body sensitivity. But during the course they may lose. That is a different case, the tongue sensitivity. But they are born with, according to Theravada teachings. Now, if anyone loses eye, ear, or at least nose sensitivity, that is considered as a defect. He's unfortunate. Why is that? They haven't subdued their desire to smell. Think about a Brahma who doesn't have the smell, who doesn't have the tongue. They have the tongue, who doesn't have the sensitivity to the smell, no sensitivity, who doesn't have the feeling, doesn't feel the taste, doesn't feel the touch. Imagine now, it's hypothetically, imagine if someone is born in the karma realm without feeling the touch, it's a miserable state. If someone cannot feel the taste, it's not appreciated. But in the Brahma realms, they do not have this, possess this. It's not because of the punishment of a karma. Punishment means a result of a karma. That is something due to their suppression of defilements, which they attain by their own effort. Why is that? These senses, when you grow in spirituality, these senses are impediments for our own spiritual bliss. So when we see the Arupa beings in that regard, seems like they don't have sight, they don't have hearing, they don't have feeling of smelling, they don't have smelling, they don't have tasting, they don't have feeling the touch. seems like a miserable state. No. Since they have subdued their defilements, they don't have such an urge. That was also one of the basic arguments made by Buddha on the argument brought forth by Brahmin Maggavihari. He said the Buddha is destroying the pleasures of the world because he is talking about restraining. He's talking about renouncing the sensual pleasures. So our Maggavihari's argument was, if someone has a desire to feel the sensual pleasures, it should not be suppressed, but it should be entertained. It should be fulfilled. The desire should be fulfilled. Why do we suppress it if we have such a desire, which is a fundamental nature of the human life? And the Buddha said, yes, it needs to be satisfied, otherwise it's a great suffering. Yes, if we are unable to fulfill our desires, we end up in suffering. We want to be with someone, but we cannot. It's a hell of a suffering. We want to achieve something, but we cannot. It's a suffering. Then the Buddha argued, how about this? If the person, instead of getting what he desires or getting what he wishes, how about getting rid, instead of suppressing it, how about him getting rid of this desire? If he doesn't have this desire, do you think that the desire, now that same object would satisfy him? And then he gave him the example. Think about a person who has a rash or a certain person like leprosy. He needs to scratch all the time, or he needs to heat himself. Only then he feels comfortable. So heat or scratching is a very good object or thing that he desires, because he feels itchy always. Now then he argued, in case, now if I have a rash, I may scratch this all the time. Scratching we may feel that scratching is a good thing, like it gives us some pleasure. But think if the rash is completely cured, if the skin is pure, now skin is normal, do we still scratch? No. Then scratching itself is the suffering. So if someone gets rid of these desires for the object, sensuality, then the sensual objects are a burden for him. For the ones who have not got rid of sensuality, being without sensual objects is the suffering. Getting with them is satisfactory. But still it is temporary. Still keeps on. It's like putting something into fire. More fuel you put into fire, it will burn, and still you need to keep on fueling it. There's no end in it. So if you extinguish the fire, if you get rid of the desire for these objects, then you don't need such objects. So that is the fundamental theory behind Arupa Avachara realms, and also in the Asanya realm, and also to some extent in the Brahma realm. Therefore, seems like it is a miserable state in our perspective, but not in their perspective, since they have got rid of the desires for the enjoyment of sensual pleasures. So, not having a physical body, not involving any work, not having any physical information, itself is the pleasure or bliss in those realms. So we say it is of very higher bliss. One of the highest blisses you can ever achieve in the samsara is being born in the Arupa realm. You may lose the opportunity to be with encounter Buddha. There's a different case. That doesn't null or deny its pleasure. It is a pleasurable state, the highest pleasure you can get within the samsara. Nibbana is something apart from samsara. That's a different case. But still, it is without a physical body. I hope you got the answer. Okay. I think the time is up. We shall conclude the lecture. Today we discuss about Chittaja Rupas, which is the opening lecture for a very interesting series of topics. So, hope to meet you next week. With this merit of discussing Dhamma, may all of us be able to attain Nibbana, develop our Dhamma knowledge, and attain Nibbana as soon as possible. And may this Kusala also be an helping factor for the sustaining of Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.